in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. On the night Crown Prince Edward Lee was pursued by assassins, he passed by my medicine hut. I hid him in the underground cellar, then sat before the courtyard gate, chopping herbs as usual. When the assassins caught up, they pointed their blades at me, demanding to know if I had seen the Crown Prince. I tried to maintain a facade of panic, keeping my head lowered, and replied that I had never seen him. The assassins laughed coldly, claiming my eyes had betrayed me. They threatened to burn down my dilapidated house if I did not speak the truth. Trembling, I pointed toward the path leading up the back mountain and told them he had gone in that direction. The back mountain was towering and shrouded in mist. The paths were so labyrinthine that even the locals often got lost. The assassins sheathed their long swords and galloped toward the mountain. After helping the Crown Prince disguise himself, I personally escorted him down the mountain. Before we parted ways, he promised that he would definitely repay me in the future. About a month later, news spread that Crown Prince Edward Lee had captured his pursuers, exterminating 9 generations of their families and hanging their bodies on the city gates as a warning. A carriage of thank you gifts arrived at my home. The Crown Prince also requested to marry a daughter of the Song family into the Eastern Palace as a consort to repay the life-saving grace. After being rescued, he had investigated and found that the medicine hut on the mountain belonged to a daughter of the Song family. My father, Master Song, was extremely moved. He was merely a lowly official who usually could not even speak to the Crown Prince, yet now his daughter was the prince's savior. The future of the Song family would surely be smooth sailing. Master Song ordered the renovation of my courtyard to welcome me back home, and Madame Song made an exception by having several new sets of clothes made for me. However, the joyful atmosphere was quickly extinguished when Lillian Song stepped forward with a cold sneer and spoke of her schemes. She asked who could compare to her older sister, implying that I must have known who the Crown Prince was beforehand to plan becoming his savior. I did not deny it. That night, even though it was late and pitch black, I had immediately recognized the dragon robe Crown Prince Edward Lee was wearing. I saved him so he would owe me a debt of gratitude. I originally only hoped he would make an exception and let me into the Imperial Medical Bureau so I could have the chance to study more ancient medical texts. Life is short, and my only wish was to develop the medical skills my mother was proud of, to save more people from illness. But I never expected his way of Thanksgiving would trap me in a vortex from which it was hard to escape. That night, I did not sleep well, and neither did Lillian. The next morning, she held a small knife, weeping and claiming that if Claire Song entered the Eastern Palace, she would have to bow to me from then on. She said she would rather die right now than see me rise above her. Lillian cried even more intensely, asking why an adopted child like her should live better than me. She asked if my mother had the heart to watch an adopted child overshadow her own biological daughter. I bowed my head in silence. I had seen scenes like this many times. I was not the biological daughter of the Song family. My father passed away when I was just born, and my mother was a maidservant of the Song manor who died under the blades of bandits to save Madame Song. Out of pity and to repay the life-saving grace of my mother, the Song family adopted me. Since childhood, I understood that although I bore the title of a daughter of the Song family, I was merely living on their charity. In the eyes of Lillian, my mother and I were just servants of her family. She never considered me her older sister. When I became old enough to understand, I asked to study medicine with my mother's master. After my master passed away, I moved to the medicine hut on the mountain to live alone. I had to handle everything by myself, without Lillian making noise beside me. My days on the mountain were truly peaceful. But then, Master Song was somewhat conflicted. After all, my mother had sacrificed her life to save his wife. Lillian refused to listen, holding the blade to her own neck to threaten them. Madame Song, in a panic, promised to do whatever she wanted, not daring to utter a single word of objection. That night, I ate the most sumptuous meal I had had in years. Madame Song smiled forcedly, saying that although my mother had taken a knife for her, she had raised me for all these years. I just smiled lightly and replied that if my mother had not died, I would surely have lived better than this. At least I would have been fed and warm, not living lonely on a mountain, suffering from the cold, beatings and contempt. I would also have had someone to back me up, just like Lillian. Madame Song smiled, but her smile was distorted. She asked what it would take for me to yield this opportunity to Lillian. I did not beat around the bush and replied directly that I wanted 1,000 taels of gold, a house in the capital with 3 main rooms, 2 profitable shops, and 100 acres of fertile land. That night, it was dark, and the crown prince did not see my face clearly. He only knew I was a daughter of the Song family. Therefore, if Lillian took my place, it would likely not be exposed. After a moment of silence, Master Song spoke up, saying he had raised me for so many years but never expected me to be so greedy. He argued that Lillian was my sister, so how could I disregard family affection? I laughed coldly and said if we were talking about affection, I considered Lillian my sister, so they should also consider me their daughter. In that case, let me enter the Eastern Palace as the Crown Prince's consort. At that time, not just 1,000 taels of gold, but even 10,000 would be merely a wave of the hand for the Crown Prince. Master Song could not reply. Finally, Master Song had to accept my conditions. The day Lillian stepped into the Eastern Palace, my medicine hut was consumed by a sea of fire. At the same time, the gold, silver and property deeds were transferred to my hands. It was heard that the Crown Prince favored consort Lillian greatly. 10 days after entering the palace, she made the Crown Prince visit her room every day. Madame Song was overjoyed because Crown Princess Sarah had not yet given birth. If consort Lillian gave birth to a royal grandson, that child would be the eldest grandson of the imperial court. In her jubilation, she remembered my medical skills and said my mother had excellent medical skills, so I must be no less capable. She asked if I could prepare a prescription for conceiving a male heir. I did not look up, only flipping through my book, and replied that one prescription cost 500 taels. Madame Song was dissatisfied, blaming me, saying that even though Lillian had taken my place, they had compensated me. She said we were all one family, and I should not cause a rift in our feelings. I did not respond. My life was inherently only interested in money. Madame Song walked back and forth in anger, but eventually had to hand over the banknote. I told her if consort Lillian did not give birth to a prince, I would definitely demand the money back. That day, she brought the prescription to the Eastern Palace, but I did not expect that when she returned, she would lead a group of eunuchs. Consort Lillian had petitioned the Crown Prince to grant me a marriage. The groom was Mason Mo, a scholar working at the bookstore at the end of the street. Mason Mo was handsome and had an elegant demeanor. Previously, when Lillian was still a young maiden, she had been infatuated with him, but he always looked down on her because of the scent of cosmetic powder on her. Now that consort Lillian had climbed to a high branch, she wanted to retaliate and marry me off quickly. She fabricated a story that I was obsessed with Mason Mo and would marry no one else. Madame Song said this was a decree from the Eastern Palace and could not be disobeyed. In a light drizzle, I was married to Mason. There was no betrothal gift, nor was there a dowry, just 2 lonely souls leaning on each other to survive. On our wedding night, Mason drank a lot of wine. He lifted my face, looked for a long time, and slowly uttered that I was indeed graceful. Beautiful, yes, but not the one he desired. He mocked himself, saying he was just an employee at a bookstore, so why did I have to go to such lengths to beg the Eastern Palace for a marriage decree? I took the wine jar, poured myself a cup, and said that although he was a bookkeeper, I had long admired his talent. However, I asked if he had ever met me before. Admiration could be from afar, but it did not necessarily have to become reality. I told him he surely knew who was causing him distress. Mason was stunned and asked if I was also someone harmed by her. I sighed softly and explained that I was not the biological daughter of the Song family. My mother was a female physician. Lillian always looked down on my lowly status. Now that she was a consort of the Crown Prince, how could she tolerate a sister like me? Naturally, she had to find a way to humiliate me. But today, before leaving the Song Manor, I had severed all ties with that family. Regardless of the past, my future now relied only on him. I knew that although Mason was a small person in society, his knowledge was vast. He was noble and knew how to maintain propriety. Only when I faced him with sincerity could he treat me with true heart. Indeed, the dissatisfaction in Mason's eyes gradually softened. He held my shoulders and said firmly that since I had married him, from now on I was his wife. Although he was poor and could not give me a betrothal gift yet, he would compensate for everything in the future. That night, Mason and I talked for a very long time. We kept no distance, regretting that we had met so late. He told stories of history, and I told stories of medicine. We both drank the entire jar of wedding wine until we leaned against the window frame and fell asleep. When I woke up, the sky was bright. On the table, a small clay stove was steaming. On the small clay stove, a pot of warm green vegetable porridge was spreading its fragrance throughout the room. Mason left me a letter saying I should eat some hot porridge and rest more. He had to go to the bookstore to work and would return before the moon rose to prepare dinner. He told me to rest assured and not worry. In the past, when reading stories, seeing a crafty girl moved by a scholar because of a bun, I felt it was hard to understand. But at this moment, I was truly moved by this bowl of porridge. From the time I grew up, this was the first time someone had cooked for me and told me to rest. When the sun set, I had prepared dinner just in time for Mason's return. Looking at the meal on the table, he sighed and said following him meant I had suffered many disadvantages, yet I still had to work so hard. I smiled softly and said we were husband and wife. If he loved me, I would not feel disadvantaged. Mason said that when he passed the civil service examination, he would definitely make up for my current hardships. The spring examination took place once every 3 years, and he was waiting for the next year. Because of his difficult family circumstances, he had to work at the bookstore, thanks to which he had the opportunity to save time to read books for free. I replied that my husband had outstanding literary talent, and I believed he would definitely pass, but this job ultimately took up too much time. I wanted to advise him to quit the job, but he just smiled sadly, saying if he did not do this work, he would not earn money, and I would have to suffer. I felt ashamed and took out a banknote worth 100 taels, handing it to him. I told him his wife was not a weak person who endured suffering. I had some savings. If he felt guilty, he should dedicate this year to studying wholeheartedly, waiting for the day he passed the exam so I could be an official's wife for once. Mason took the banknote, his eyes tearing up, saying since I trusted him, he would definitely not disappoint. His frankness and sincerity made me love him even more. Before, I worried that he was just a person who studied books too heavily on etiquette, and would refuse to accept money from my hands. But now I saw he knew how to be flexible, looked far and wide, and was willing to let go of inherent pride in front of his wife. If he became an official in the future, knowing how to preserve himself but also knowing how to adapt would be better than those who were rigid and easily exploited. Mason and I found a scenic place on the mountain and built a small house. In the front yard, I grew medicinal herbs. In the backyard, Mason grew green vegetables. We also set up a swing and a small pavilion. On normal days, he studied books, and I read medical texts. Day after day, the 4 seasons cycled, but life remained peaceful and filled with joy. When free, he walked with me in the mountains, listening to the rain and watching the snow fall. He always woke up early, while I was used to sleeping in. Every time I woke up, I always saw a warm meal on the fire. He even broke branches of peach blossoms to make me happy and wrote poems full of affection for me during long nights. He ceaselessly kissed my lips, making me unable to refuse. Mason was a man who was both polite and strong, a gentleman but also a bit wild. Although he never said he loved me, in every painting he drew, I saw myself in it. For the first time in my life, I felt like thanking Lillian Song for choosing a good husband for me. Spring passed and winter arrived. Mason passed the examinations, even exceeding expectations. He became the top scholar, and on the day he rode a tall horse parading through the streets, I was at home preparing the bamboo shoot braised meat that Mason liked best. Usually, he pampered me, so I rarely had the chance to enter the kitchen. I thought tonight when he returned, he would be very surprised and happy. However, instead of welcoming him in his red robe, I had to welcome a eunuch from the Eastern Palace. The eunuch said that today Consort Lillian and Princess Anna watched the parade, and the princess had taken a liking to the top scholar. Consort Lillian said she had to report this news to me. Tonight, Master Mo would dine with the princess. The eunuch advised me not to rely on the sisterly relationship with the consort to compete with the princess, and reminded me not to forget that the emperor loved the princess the most. I immediately understood Lillian's intention. Initially, she granted the marriage to humiliate Mason and me. Now seeing us getting better day by day, she was even more unhappy and decided to cause trouble. Clearly, she was the one who led the princess to meet Mason. Although I believed Mason would not betray me, I still sat waiting at the table until late at night, but he did not return. The next day, with dark circles under my eyes, I received a decree from the princess summoning me to the palace. Stepping into the Eastern Palace, I faced Consort Lillian sitting in the main seat, looking at me with arrogant eyes. She said, I was an ordinary woman, and now that Mason was the top scholar and a student of the Son of Heaven, I was unworthy. I looked straight at her, unwavering, and said the marriage between my husband and me was granted by the Eastern Palace. If there was anything unworthy, the consort should ask the crown prince, not me. Lillian did not expect I would dare to respond so bluntly. She was momentarily stunned but quickly regained her cold demeanor. She said now he was the top scholar, and our statuses were different. I calmly replied that there were tens of thousands of scholars in the world, but how many could make a name for themselves before marrying and having children? The number of such people in the world could be counted on one hand. Today, the consort stood up to speak for my husband. Was it to defend those who achieved fame and then betrayed their wives? I continued, recalling that when the late Empress passed away, His Majesty ate vegetarian food and chanted prayers for 3 years to pray for her out of grief. His Majesty's heart touched the officials and the common people, and many followed suit. Therefore, in our dynasty, all officials must respect their wives. Only a harmonious family brings peace to the people, and when the people are at peace, the court is stable. I asked if the consort's action today was perhaps looking down on His Majesty. This question left Lillian tongue-tied, unable to answer. She thought I was still the person who only knew medicine and understood nothing of worldly affairs. She did not expect that in 1 year with Mason, I had also learned many things. After a moment of silence, Lillian screamed in anger, ordering her men to drag the person who dared to look down on her out and beat me with 20 strokes. I raised my voice, turning toward the screen behind her, and said if a common woman like me were beaten today, then in the future, even if the princess obtained Mason, it would not be glorious. I feared the world would laugh and criticize. When I entered, I noticed someone standing behind the screen. Living on the mountain, I was particularly sensitive to small sounds. The person behind the screen breathed softly, indicating a weak body. Everyone knew Princess Anna was loved because she was the daughter of the late Empress and had carried an illness since childhood. Sure enough, Princess Anna stepped out from behind the screen, looking at me with cold eyes identical to Lillian's. She said this princess did not care about the gossip of the world. The spit of the common people, no matter how much, could not drown the imperial city. But she did not want to win in an unworthy manner. She said she would make me accept defeat wholeheartedly. Before leaving, Princess Anna glanced at Lillian with a look of boredom, saying a useless person like her, no wonder the third brother only saw her as a medicine-testing insect. Hearing this, Lillian was terrified and hurriedly knelt on the ground, begging the princess to give her another chance. She promised she would do her best and would definitely make Mason hers. As she spoke, she tugged at the hem of Princess Anna's dress, but the princess immediately kicked her away, causing her to roll over. The princess said the person the third brother dislikes, she also dislikes, and she did not want to hear the words, medicine-testing insect. My heart filled with horror. My master once said that in noble families, before taking medicine, there was usually someone who tasted it first to ensure there was no poison. These people were called medicine-testing insects. But medicine is 3 parts poison. Medicine-testing insects often suffered physical damage and rarely lived long. Fortunately, the court had banned the use of humans as medicine testers. If discovered, it would be severely punished. At that moment, I realized Lillian's face was pale. When she knelt, I saw the hair on the top of her head had fallen out sparsely. She was still crying and begging the princess to save her, saying she did not want to die. But Princess Anna did not deign to look at her one more time. When I left Consort Lillian's courtyard and passed the rear garden, I saw Crown Princess Sarah sitting and reading under the corridor. Although it was spring, she was wearing a thick fur coat. Princess Anna stepped forward to inquire, asking why the imperial sister-in-law was sitting where the wind was blowing, warning her to be careful or the third brother would worry. I followed and looked closely, seeing Crown Princess Sarah's face was pale, her eye sockets deep and dark, her lips without a trace of pink. She smiled faintly and gently replied that she heard the flowers were blooming beautifully this year, and wanted to admire them a bit. She just did not know if she would still be able to admire the flowers next spring. Anna told me to stand and wait while she helped Crown Princess Sarah back to her room. I sat in the breeze, finally understanding clearly why Consort Lillian had deliberately destroyed the happiness between Mason and me. Back then, she thought replacing me would bring her favor, believing that entering the Eastern Palace would grant her glory and wealth. But it turned out Crown Prince Edward Lee only used the excuse of repaying a debt to find a consort for Crown Princess Sarah. All along, she had looked down on me. Although living in the Eastern Palace was not as she wished, on the surface, she was still a consort whom the Crown Prince visited daily. Now, seeing that I had not only won the person she could not have, but also become the wife of the top scholar, living a happier life than her, how could she be resigned? That was why she led the princess to meet Mason, hoping to force me to yield. She thought I would be afraid like before, bowing my head under the pressure of power. But she was wrong. I accepted letting her enter the Eastern Palace not because I feared the Song family, but because I inherently did not want to be a consort. The Crown Prince had great power, but the Eastern Palace was unstable. Glory and wealth accompanied by constant anxiety were not equal to a stable life with Mason. I decided to marry Mason from the start because I knew that although he was poor, he had great ambition and was intelligent and talented. I wanted him to study with peace of mind. The day he became top scholar, power could do nothing to me, because I inherently had nothing to lose. Living alone in the world, without attachments, without fear. Princess Anna led me to the princess's manor, opened the door and laughed softly saying, "Here he is." I saw Mason lying in a wooden bathtub, surrounded by beautiful women serving him. The princess said that by her side, he could enjoy all pleasures. She asked how many men in the world could refuse such beauty. She claimed she did not care how many people he had slept with, as long as he was by her side, it was enough. Princess Anna smiled at me, her eyes waiting for me to collapse. However, I clearly saw Mason's eyes were glazed and red, his fingers trembling, he had been forced. The princess does not truly love him, she kept him by her side only out of jealousy. I calmly closed the door and addressed her. Princess Anna frowned in displeasure and asked, "He is just a man. What could this princess possibly be jealous of him for?" I replied, "You are jealous because he is healthy. You are jealous because he became the top scholar with a boundless future. You are jealous because he has a loving wife who stands by his side with one heart. He has everything that you cannot have, a bright path and a lifetime of happiness. As for you, princess, your life is short. You cannot be with the person you love for a lifetime. You are tormented by illness, living in confinement and anxiety, only hoping to recover, but that hope has now faded. Seeing Mason strong and radiant, you only wanted to possess him, thinking that by doing so, you would become like him. But Mason is the rising sun, while you are the fading sunset." Hearing this, the princess breathed rapidly and finally slapped me across the face, her face flushed red. "You are truly audacious." I did not hesitate to respond with a slap of my own. Before being a princess, learn to be a human being first. The strong slap caused the princess to fall to the ground. The surrounding maids intended to rush in and restrain me. I calmly said, "The princess is seriously ill, and I can save her." Thus, no one dared to touch me anymore. I bent down looking at her with cold eyes. Has the princess forgotten all the etiquette taught in the imperial palace? In just a few short days, you wanted to ruin my husband. You have lived in silk and satin since childhood. Just a little dissatisfaction makes you ready to punish your subordinates. When you want to go out, a whole street is blocked, regardless of the livelihood of the common people. You are always arrogant, only thinking of yourself. I paused for a moment, my voice becoming deep and sad. But have you ever understood my husband? He lost his parents when he was young and endured all kinds of contempt. He had to work in the school, lying outside the door to eavesdrop on the teacher's lectures. He did not have enough money to buy a lamp, so he had to borrow moonlight to read. One set of clothes worn from spring to winter, eating corn cakes from the beginning of the year to the end. He has seen through the ways of the world but never had the heart to harm anyone. He only wanted to rely on his learning to achieve fame and create a path for himself. Why destroy his life just because of your greed? I know Consort Lillian is somewhat foolish, but entering the Eastern Palace was not something she begged for. It was the Crown Prince who ceremoniously welcomed her in. Yet why are you so cruel as to turn her into a medicine-testing insect? She was originally a young lady raised properly. She should have had a stable life with a good husband. But you imprisoned her in the Eastern Palace, ruining her life, then despised and humiliated her. Just because you are a princess and he is a crown prince, do you think you are allowed to arbitrarily take the lives of others? Princess Anna, have you ever thought about karma and retribution? In this world, the laws of heaven still exist. Your illness, and Crown Princess Sarah's illness, could they be due to the sins you have committed? I looked straight at her, my voice sharp and cold. You said you did not want to win by underhanded means, yet you still drugged Mason, wanting him to choose you while his mind was confused. You also know very well that even if you are a princess with this kind of virtue, when he is sober, he would certainly not pay attention to you. The princess held her face and sat on the ground, her chest heaving incessantly. The princess inherently understood these reasonings. The emperor is a wise ruler, and he had taught her right from wrong, but she used her illness as an excuse to ignore everything. Now, being exposed by me, the princess was angry to the point of flushing red. Blood rushed to her throat, and then she spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted. When Princess Anna woke up, the sky was already dark. She rubbed her forehead, sat up, and gave a long yawn. Then she jumped down from the bed, walking barefoot on the floor, spinning around and laughing softly, saying that it really didn't hurt anymore. She patted her chest, saying her chest no longer ached, and she could even dance and run. I gently reminded the princess that if she wanted to be truly healthy, she had to take medicine regularly. When she fully recovered, she would be no different from ordinary people. Only then did Princess Anna realize I was sitting by the table. My master once said I had a strange talent and very high medical skills, but I had never practiced it. Unexpectedly, just by looking at the princess's symptoms, I knew the root of the illness. You are truly talented. The princess looked at me with complex eyes. If you cure this princess's illness, I will reward you with tens of thousands of taels of gold and silver. I replied decisively, I do not need gold or silver. I only want my husband to return. Anna turned her face away, not wanting to face me anymore. If the princess agrees to let him go, I guarantee to cure your illness. When you are fully recovered, you will be able to ride horses, shoot arrows, row boats on the lake, or play in the snow. You can even leave the palace to watch plays, or even meet handsome young masters from exotic lands. Are those things not more enjoyable than trying to keep someone who does not love you? Anna pondered for a moment, then replied in a low voice, but I have no friends. In this palace, everyone is afraid of me, no one is willing to be by my side. I smiled. If the princess wishes, I will be your companion. But please promise me, before being a princess, learn to be a human being first. Anna smiled slightly and nodded in agreement. After giving Mason the antidote, he woke up not long after. As soon as he saw me, he hugged me tightly and cried loudly, Wife, I have failed you. I tried to resist but could not fight it. Please believe me, whether it is a princess or a fairy, in my eyes, they cannot compare to you. I couldn't help but laugh and teased him. Failed me how? Mason said with an aggrieved face. I was seen by them all. Anna poked her head out from behind and laughed, saying, they were all people from the brothel, they are not worth paying attention to. Just take him back. I don't need a crybaby like him. Seeing Anna, Mason immediately stopped crying, his eyes wide. Unruly princess, daring to kidnap a court official. I will definitely submit a memorial to His Majesty. I hurriedly stopped him, saying the princess had realized her mistake. Anna looked at me, then turned her head to avoid my gaze. A moment later, she turned back and said sincerely, previously, this princess was rude. Please forgive me, Sir Mo. Mason did not expect such an apology from the princess and could only stand in silence. The princess could actually bow her head and apologize to him. He stood there dazed. Only when Princess Anna left did I recount everything that had happened in the past 2 days. Hearing the whole story, Mason hugged me and praised me ceaselessly. My wife is truly Huatu reborn. No, both Huatu and Zhugliang have reincarnated into my wife. Fortunately, thanks to my wife, I could study with peace of mind last year. Now that I am the top scholar, I swear that in this life I will not take concubines, nor abandon my wife. I only acknowledge my wife alone. I smiled and replied, all right. Mason was appointed as a compiler in the Hanlin Academy, busy with court affairs every day. Therefore, we could not stay on the mountain anymore. However, the house the Song family gave me also needed renovation for some time. Princess Anna immediately invited us into the princess's manor. I am not doing this for your convenience, she declared. I am currently treating my illness at the most critical time, so you must stay at the manor to take care of me. I nodded and smiled, but in my heart, I understood clearly. Since knowing she could be cured, the princess lived in hope. Every day she chatted with me about future plans, and her personality became milder. A person living with hope will have less darkness in their heart. Conversely, consort Lillian's situation became increasingly desperate. When I went with the princess to visit Crown Princess Sarah at the Eastern Palace, Lillian looked thinner and more haggard than before. Her face was sallow, her eyes sorrowful, her hair dry and sparse. She had no trace of her former arrogance. My heart felt a twinge of bitterness. Regardless of the reason, her entry into the Eastern Palace had ultimately spared me this suffering. Thinking of Madame Song at home, still eagerly waiting for her to give birth to a prince, I felt even more melancholic. Anna saw me staring at Consort Lillian and gently pulled my sleeve, saying, "Don't look anymore. She is now a consort of the Eastern Palace, it cannot be changed." Because of my scolding last time, she no longer mocked Consort Lillian. I sighed and asked, "How important is Crown Princess Sarah to the Crown Prince?" "They have known each other since childhood. The third brother would give his life for the imperial sister-in-law. He has sought countless imperial physicians, but none could cure her illness. Yet he never gave up. Recently, he left the palace to find a famous doctor. Claire," she called softly, "can you cure the imperial sister-in-law's illness?" I replied that I was not sure. Anna's illness was half mental. Crown Princess Sarah's foundation was damaged. I could not be fully certain of a cure, but I could try. "If I can cure Crown Princess Sarah, can I ask you to let Consort Lillian return home?" Just as I finished speaking, and before Crown Princess Sarah could speak, Consort Lillian objected first. "Claire Song, your curing her has nothing to do with me. As a consort of the Eastern Palace, serving the Crown Princess is my natural duty. I don't need you to pretend to be a good person." "Fine." I brought unnecessary sympathy upon myself. I smiled forcefully and returned to the princess's manor. Anna wondered why Lillian had begged me to save her before, claiming she couldn't live, but now acted this way. I could not explain it either. I replied that perhaps Lillian was stubborn and refused to soften in front of me. Crown Princess Sarah's illness was extremely difficult to cure. When Anna had fully recovered, Crown Princess Sarah was still lying in bed. The Crown Prince asked suspiciously, "Can you really cure her?" Anna said unhappily, "Third brother, am I not standing alive and healthy before your eyes? Claire is very skilled, just trust and use her." Crown Prince Edward Lee had nothing more to say. He could only urge me to cure the illness quickly, to make me wholehearted. He even ordered people in the court to make things difficult for Mason. The Crown Prince was the favored son of the country. If he disliked an official, that official had no way out, he said. "If you do not do your utmost to cure the Crown Princess, your Mason will not have peace in the court." I secretly hated myself for blindly saving a heartless man back then. But I could not let Mason face difficulties while he was on the path of promotion. When he came home, he even happily boasted that he was about to be promoted. Remembering his strong figure, his warm chest, the sweat on his forehead, and his calloused hands, I decided to devote myself to treating Crown Princess Sarah so Mason would not be suppressed. I hoped he would be happy every day and rise steadily. The following spring, after exhaustively researching medical texts, I found the root cause of the Crown Princess's illness. It took another half-year, until early autumn, to prepare the medicine. After taking it, Crown Princess Sarah indeed improved significantly. When the first snow fell, she could even step out into the courtyard to admire it. Since I began treating the Crown Princess, Consort Lillian was no longer forced to be a medicine tester. After 2 years of recuperation, her health also improved significantly. Although she no longer had the delicate beauty of her time in the Song family, she was rosy and looked fresh. Seeing her support Crown Princess Sarah to watch the snow, my heart stung slightly. Remembering the past, the princess held an umbrella and respectfully congratulated the Crown Princess. "News just came from the palace that His Majesty has decided not to change the Crown Prince anymore. From now on, anyone competing with the Crown Prince will be considered disrespectful to the ancestors, and the officials can oppose it." Crown Princess Sarah sighed, saying that was good, then coughed lightly twice and returned to her room to rest. When I left the Eastern Palace, Consort Lillian walked quickly towards me, her eyes full of suspicion. "What are you calculating? I understand it all. You proposed sending me back to the Song family, because you were afraid that when the Crown Princess recovered, I would no longer be a medicine tester and could truly be favored. Unfortunately, I won't do as you wish. Now that the Crown Princess is recovering, I am no longer a tester. In the future, when the Crown Prince ascends the throne, I could become a high-ranking concubine. My dear sister, next time we meet, perhaps you will have to kneel and bow to me. I am the master, and you will forever be a servant." After speaking, she held her umbrella and turned away, looking smug. So this was her plan. That was why she did not want to leave the Eastern Palace. I looked back at the magnificent Eastern Palace, my heart heavy. Perhaps there really was no fate between us. I could not save her anymore. That evening at dinner, Mason gently reminded me not to go to the Eastern Palace tomorrow. I nodded, knowing the time had come. For the past 2 years, treating the crown princess was ostensibly Princess Anna's idea, but in reality, it was to probe for information in the Eastern Palace. The third time I diagnosed her, I had discovered the cause and even a cure. But the crown prince had sought famous doctors for years, and none found the cause. This was strange. Unless they were all incompetent, there was only one possibility. The crown prince did not want the crown princess to recover. So, I also pretended not to find the cause. Although I went in and out of the Eastern Palace, things did not progress much. The crown prince using Mason to threaten me was just a facade. In his eyes, I had no weight. But this fit his intentions perfectly. During the time I was treating the illness in the Eastern Palace, Mason was also secretly investigating the crown prince. On the surface, he was a compiler at the Hanlin Academy, but his promotion was actually because His Majesty trusted him with a secret mission to assist the Prime Minister in investigating the crown prince. Combining with the clues I discovered in the Eastern Palace, Mason finally exposed the crown prince's conspiracy. Under the guise of finding doctors, the crown prince had secretly traded with enemy nations, earning black money to raise an army, plotting rebellion. Crown Princess Sarah was just a pawn to blind others in his plan, and consort Lillian was a secondary pawn to complete that plan. Most noble families knew that the consort of the Eastern Palace was favored by the crown princess, being so harmonious, and with the crown prince creating an image of loving his wife by traveling everywhere to find doctors, no one suspected him. But in reality, Crown Prince Edward Lee was selfish, deceitful, and cruel. He only loved himself. For 2 years, I devoted all my efforts to coordinate with Mason to overthrow the crown prince, preventing a treacherous man like him from ascending the throne. The throne is the peak of the world. If the person sitting on it is a sinister tyrant, the people will live in fire and misery. Disease is easy to treat, but a decaying nation has no medicine to save it. His Majesty issued a decree making the crown prince completely drop his guard, thinking the throne was surely his. The next day, while the crown prince was holding a celebratory banquet at the Eastern Palace, the imperial guards surrounded the entire place and arrested him on the spot. The evidence was undeniable. The crown prince could not deny it. Finally, he was executed. Crown Princess Sarah and consort Lillian were imprisoned in the heavenly prison for life, never to escape. Anna took me to visit them. Seeing me, Crown Princess Sarah smiled for the first time. She held my hand and thanked me gently. "Thank you for treating me as a human being, not just a chess piece. You truly treated me with all your heart." I felt my heart sink, feeling ashamed. As a doctor, I had still used her illness to distract the crown prince. "You are a victim," I said. "I will beg the emperor, perhaps I can save you from this place." Anna also could not bear it, but Crown Princess Sarah just shook her head and smiled sadly. "No need. Back then, when I married him, I thought he married me for love. But less than half a year after the wedding, I got pregnant and then lost the child. Since then, my body grew weaker, and I knew the miscarriage was his scheme to harm me. He never considered me anything more than a pawn to blind the world." Compared to Lillian, when she first entered the palace, he had some genuine liking for her, but within 10 days, he got bored. Yet he kept her by his side like a decoration. In the past, he held my hand and swore that if he had to choose between the throne and me, he would choose me. Speaking of this, her eyes were full of sorrow. His hands were as cold as ice, but his eyes burned with ambition. That young man once truly loved me, but no matter how deep the love, he eventually got lost in the dark path of power, forgetting the person he once loved. My life has been so tiring. If there is a next life, I would rather not be born into a noble family, not know the crown prince, but live peacefully in the mountains, welcoming the spring breeze, listening to summer cicadas, watching autumn rain, and seeing winter snow. Living a life of freedom without constraints. Crown Princess Sarah leaned against the cold wall of the heavenly prison, a smile lingering on the corners of her lips as she took her last breath. She had always forced herself to endure, only hoping to hear the crown prince say once more that she had a place in his heart. But it was all self-deception. She had forced herself to endure the illness, tormenting her own body, just hoping to see a look of concern, but it was all hopeless. Before dying, she realized the young man from the past was no more. Anna held Crown Princess Sarah's hand tightly, tears flowing ceaselessly. She was so good. She was the only one who tolerated my stubborn temper. She used to advise me not to be too obstinate. When Lillian was first forced to be a medicine tester, she tried to stop third brother many times, saying it would ruin Lillian's body. Yet in the end, she, a gentle and kind person, was driven to death by the third brother. Anna cried miserably. Perhaps only now did she truly understand why His Majesty had to execute the crown prince. A ruler needs to be decisive and tough for the sake of the world, but one who lacks humanity is not worthy of being an emperor. When we left the heavenly prison, Consort Lillian knelt at my feet, screaming and begging. Sister, please get me out of here. I won't go anywhere. I just want to go home. I want to see our parents. You can definitely do it. Mason is now a great meritorious official favored by His Majesty. If he begs His Majesty, he will surely agree. I just shook my head gently and sighed. I cannot save you. Crown Princess Sarah might have been saved because she came from a prestigious family, and with Anna's plea, His Majesty might have accepted. But Lillian could not. His Majesty wanted to leave an explanation to the world. How could he easily spare someone from the Eastern Palace? Moreover, the eunuch who delivered the decree that day had witnessed the smug look on Lillian's face when the Eastern Palace was still in glory. The wailing cries of Lillian gradually faded behind us. As for me, for the first time, I felt my body warm up a little. The heavenly prison was cold. It seemed tonight I had to find Mason to keep warm. Another spring has arrived. Mason was appointed as an examiner for the spring examination. Anna and I went to see him off. From a distance, I saw a scholar who looked different from the others. He did not look like a student but exuded the aura of someone who had experienced the wind and dust of the battlefield. As soon as Anna saw him, she wanted to turn away, but I pulled her back. Do you know him? Anna turned her head to avoid my eyes and whispered. He is the youngest son of the Duke of Ning, General Lance, guarding the border with his father. I don't know why he returned to the capital to take the exam. Seeing this, Mason walked straight over to talk. After a while, he returned and said. He said the news that Princess Anna took a liking to the top scholar back then caused a stir in the capital. Everyone knew. The news reached the border, so this time he returned to the capital to take the exam, because he thought the princess liked scholars. Anna's face turned red, and she hurriedly broke free from my hand, covered her face, and ran away. Mason smiled. I hope this General Lance does not disappoint people. If General Lance passes, he will surely be with the princess. My wife will no longer need to keep the princess company every day. Our couple can finally be close every day. I laughed and replied. Your colleagues are now married and have children. Only you are still thinking about spending time with your wife. Mason laughed cheerfully. Before, the princess always occupied you. The time I had was not much. After the spring examination, my wife and I will be together day and night. Sooner or later, we will have children. We can't let my colleagues surpass us forever. I looked at Mason's back as he entered the examination hall, shivering at the thought of the examination ending. My legs feeling a bit weak. Unfortunately, General Lance did not pass. He ran to a tavern to get drunk and cried miserably. I have loved you for so many years. I struggled to find you like scholars, but I am not capable of passing the exam. I am truly useless, only knowing how to lead troops. Anna dragged me to see him. Seeing him distraught, Anna gently comforted him. No, you are very brave. Since childhood, I saw you were talented. Previously you said when I recovered, you would teach me to ride a horse. Now I am well. When do you plan to teach me? Hearing this, General Lance happily replied, Tomorrow. Tomorrow I will choose the gentlest horse and come to the princess's manor to pick you up. I glanced at Anna and reminded her, I remember someone once said they didn't like men who cry. Anna blushed and murmured, that is your pursing. As for mine, whatever he is like, I like it. On the day Anna got married, I was invited as a guest of honor. She cried and thanked me for healing and awakening her. Mason sat beside me, his face full of pride, ceaselessly boasting that the person thanked personally by the princess and His Majesty was his wife. That day was truly filled with joy. Mason and I both drank quite a bit of wine. When we returned to the manor, a group of servants ran out to welcome us, but Mason did not let them touch me. Instead, he carried me back to the room himself. Placing me on the bed, he looked at me with eyes full of tears. Wife, do you remember our wedding night? You and I didn't even have time to perform the ceremony before we got drunk and fell asleep. I nodded. Of course I remember. Seeing their grand wedding today, thinking back to the day we got married, it was truly simple. He stroked my face gently. I smiled. Just having you by my side is enough. Even so, tears still fell on his face. Drop by drop fell onto my face, and he lowered his head to kiss each tear. Wife, I once promised to make up for the betrothal gifts. Now, this mansion bestowed by the Emperor is in your name. From now on, all my anger and joy are for you to decide. He continued. I promise not to fail you in this life. If I break my word, you can kick me out of the door and report to the emperor. I will eventually die alone in a desolate place, that is retribution. He went on. I opened a medicine shop by the river to help you treat the poor. Now that the crown prince is dead, you don't need to stay with the princess anymore. My job is stable. You can be a doctor with peace of mind. I want everyone to know that my wife is the person with the most brilliant medical skills. Finally, he lifted my face. I love you more than this world. I hugged his neck, my heart overflowing with happiness and emotion. I took the initiative to kiss him, believing that I had also found a place to entrust my heart. That night, we didn't sleep a wink. Anna and I became pregnant at the same time. One day, when I was at the clinic, she came to help, busily welcoming patients without rest. Marriage had made her mature. She not only opened a school for poor children, but also organized gatherings for families of soldiers at the border to share their sorrows. She no longer had the cold demeanor of before but was gentle and sociable, chatting with the elderly, holding children, and giving warm clothes to poor patients. One day, I saw she was tired and advised her to go back and rest, but she suddenly collapsed. When I took her pulse, I realized she was also pregnant. General Lance was flustered. I scolded him for not taking care of his wife and not noticing the unusual signs. But General Lance was indescribably overjoyed, hugging Anna and laughing happily. At that moment, I turned around and saw Mason standing behind me, looking worried. He asked, Wife, is it true that doctors don't treat themselves? You have had similar symptoms lately. Another physician checked and confirmed I was also pregnant. Thus, Anna and I were frantically taken away from the clinic by two men. Mason did not let me go there anymore. He only allowed the manager to report daily, and said I should wait and after giving birth to return. You have exhausted your strength too much. From now on, rest well to nourish the fetus. After you give birth, I will personally take you back, he said. The time for nourishing the fetus lasted from summer to spring. I gave birth to a girl, while Anna gave birth to a boy. She insisted on arranging a marriage between our children. Mason refused, laughing. The son of the Ning family will be foolish like General Lance in the future. My daughter will be smart and beautiful like my wife. How can she marry down? I smiled to reassure them that the children were still small, and marriage was still far away, no need to rush. The urgent matter now was naming the child. Mason hugged me as I held our child in my arms. His eyes full of love, he softly said, Serenamo. Like a river embracing the mountain, peaceful and calm. I looked at the child in the swaddling clothes, my heart filled with happiness, and whispered, truly a beautiful name. While Lillian and the Crown Prince chased the illusion of power through deceit, they ultimately found only cold isolation and ruin. In contrast, Claire and Mason proved that a life built on shared hardships, sincerity, and mutual respect is unshakable. The story beautifully illustrates that a humble bowl of porridge shared with a soulmate holds more warmth than a lonely throne. Ultimately, before we strive to acquire status or glory, we must first master the profound grace of simply being a decent, kind human being. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.